This is Kim Meyer, host of Choose to Rise. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Annie Scogan, and I'm one of the co-hosts of Head Over Heels Pageant Talk here on Public House Media. Thank you for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come out and check my show, Head Over Heels Pageant Talk, where we talk about all things involved with the Miss America organization and both myself and my other co-host, Jordan Butler's experiences within it. A new show comes out bi-monthly, so don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so that you never miss an episode of Head Over Heels Pageant Talk. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Welcome to How to Write Good. I'm your host, Daniel Poppy. Find out more about me at danielpoppy.com. Please check out How to Write Good on Facebook. Like and share stuff. I've said it before. I'll say it again. If you do like How to Write Good, it's likely that you listen to it through a podcasting app. Even if you do like it on that podcasting app, that's really helpful. But things that really help anyone creating anything is if you go and you like their stuff that they put out on Facebook. That gets the word out to more people. And also like it on like iTunes. So if you're listening through iTunes, or if you want to go jump over to iTunes, give it a rating, give it a be like, hey, like I like this. If you even even if you're like, hey, this is like a 4-star thing, I like it that way, that's fine too. But I think there's like a 5-star rating on there. But check it out. It's likely that you already like it on Facebook. If you don't like it on Facebook, please like it on Facebook. That's really helpful to me. If you don't like it on Facebook, if you do like it on Facebook, like and share the stuff that's put out. Right now, I'm just putting out the show itself. And the reason why I'm putting out the show itself is because it's hard to find other content to put on Facebook that's connected to this, because I don't want to put out writing advice, because this whole show is in opposition to writing advice. But whatever. If you do like the show, check out Public House Media. They are the host. I guess I'm the host of the show. Public House Media essentially allows this show to happen. Okay, so check them out. Check out the other podcasts they have. They have quite a few podcasts. They have a lot of different types of podcasts. There's probably a podcast that is of your interest. I don't even know if that was correct English, but we're going to go for it, because the stinking show, the show's name is How to Write Good, so what do you expect? Come on, people. Our word of the week. Our word of the week is Heimel, and Heimel means relating to winter, or wintry, okay? So that's pretty simple. Again, it is still winter, and though it's a couple weeks past Christmas, I'm still going for the winter words, because I'm kind of on a roll, and I've got a few more that I need to go through. This is probably my last good one, because it's actually useful in a lot of ways. Heimel. This word is, Heimel is related to the word hibernation. They both come from a Latin word like hiem. I think you say it hiem or hiem. And so they both come from that word. So if you think hibernation and you think of this week, you'll almost certainly remember this word. Again, it's Heimel, and it means relating to winter, or another word for wintry. Just adding to our lexicon of words. Okay. I think maybe saying lexicon of words is redundant, but we're going to go for it. Our accidental essence today is the purpose of art. So I'm going to be talking about the purpose of art. And I've already talked about this a little bit, but I want to expand on it a little bit more. I've talked about my view of what art is, but I haven't talked about the purpose exactly, specifically. So if you've been listening to this podcast, or maybe you've stumbled on it before, I like to reiterate what I've said before, just so that you remember, hey, this is what he thinks about art. And what I think about art is something that reveals reality more clearly to us. Okay. It's a lens. So you think of it like a pair of glasses. I think that's a really good way to understand it. So if you have bad eyes, the curve of your eye is wrong, and you have essentially fuzzy vision, either close up or far away, and you put on a pair of glasses, and it corrects the curve of your eye. And that's kind of what I consider art to be. So it's correcting your vision. Okay, so you've got a picture of reality in your head, and there are issues with your picture of reality, and someone who creates art has taken enough time to think about and collect information of reality, and think deeply about reality to essentially put a picture of reality in front of you that is actually correct and that is actually accurate. Okay, so it is a lens that reveals or helps us understand reality more clearly. All right, this is in opposition to the elitist view of art. So a lot of people, and I think this is a more modern thing, but maybe it's been going on forever. There's a, and I've talked about this before, and I've ranted about it before. There's an elitist attitude by the artistic community, by artists. So if you look at the best thing to do to actually understand this elitist attitude is to go to Hollywood, actually watch one of the award shows. And I swear, last year or the year before, someone was saying there was some actress, I believe it was an actress, and I use the word actress because we have a word for a female. There's an actor, which is male, and an actress. And actresses, we don't need to use the same word for both. There is a word. It's meant to differentiate the sexes, whether it's an actress or an actor. Okay, and it's kind of ridiculous, I think, and it's demeaning to the actresses to say, "Oh, she's an actor," because that assumes that her being an actress is worse than being an actor. Because if actress was good enough, we just say, "Oh, she's an actress." So I use the word actress purposefully. So there is an actress last year or 2 years ago who was talking about how the job of acting is one of the most important jobs on earth. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. Yeah, sure, person. But I think that's the epitome of someone who's essentially a snob and an artist in some form. And I've ranted about this before. I'm not going to get into it, but I essentially think, and what I say to people who say that or anything like that, I say, hey, you're just here for entertainment. So entertain people and shut up, because your job isn't the most important job on earth. Because if people didn't eat, they wouldn't really care about your art too much, right? They'd be buying food instead of watching your movies or watching the TV show or anything. Actually, right now in this day and age, I think that and I've already had this on another show, but you can listen to that show. I think the show is called Mario is Greater Than Duchamp. Duchamp is a French modern artist who created an artistic piece called The Fountain, and he essentially took a urinal and he flipped it upside down, and he called that art because it was a statement in art at that time. Now people keep on copying it, and they keep on saying, "Oh, I'm doing what do." I think you say his name Duchamp. I think Duchamp or Duchamp. I can't remember exactly. But people are modern artists. They're always trying to do something. They're taking crap and they're moving it and they're putting up as an artistic piece, and they're trying to do what Duchamp did, but it only needed to be done once. So it's really, really redundant. All this modern art. So if the piece of art that really comes to mind is there's an artist. Actually, I think this is Duchamp as well. So there is an artist. You have these artists who, for instance, there's artists who there's a lady who swallows paint and vomits it back up on canvas. And I think I brought this up already, but I keep on saying the same thing. But Duchamp already did that, and he was. You only need to do it once. All this other modern artist derivative. That means it's just copying Duchamp. He already did it. He already asked the question, what is art? We don't need to keep on asking the question, what is art, or is this art? We need to start answering the question, what is art? Otherwise, we're not going to have art. Like I said, the best art being made today is video games, because they don't ask what is art. They just try to make something really, really stinking good. Okay, so there is an elitist attitude, and like I said, it comes across, especially I think in Hollywood right now, because they're super rich. They are super rich. And they're super rich because of a single talent. In a lot of cases, well, I think they do. I think that a lot of actors and actresses, I'm going to have both, work really, really hard to get where they are. I think it's a really competitive business. The work they do, they're overpaid for the work they do. Let's just say that. Because there's a lot of other people working their butts off a lot more and doing a lot harder work, a lot less probably fulfilling or fun work to get paid a lot less. So I think actors and actresses are... they are, for the skills they have, they're overpaid. The fact that there's so much money made off of the movies and it's because of them, okay, I'll give you that. But for the skills don't match up with the pay. The audience and the people paying to watch the movies match up with the pay. So I guess I'm going back on that a little bit. But there's an elitist attitude that the modern common people shouldn't understand art, and artists are so special among the whole population, okay? And in some ways, like I'm like, okay, there is a sense that that's the case, because if you have somebody and they're looking at reality and they're creating a lens that we can see reality more clearly. They're giving us these glasses that correct our vision about reality. That's a really, really good thing. It's a really important thing, because if we can better understand reality, we can live better. And I'm kind of getting into the purpose of art, but I think it goes a little further than that. It would be further. Just an FYI, so the word further refers to degree, and the word farther refers to distance. So if I walk more, I'm going to walk farther. And if I dig into something, so if I think about something more, I'm going to think about it further. Okay, so FYI, that's how that works. So how they viewed it, they think a normal person can't understand art. They have this secret skill that they can present. They can make something. But I think that though art should be profound, it should reveal to us poetry. You go, what the heck are they talking about? But a good poem, in that sense, you'd read the poem, and then at the end of the poem, you're like, I never thought about the world in that way. Yeah, I think that's really right. And I think this gets into this idea of the simplicity of elegance. So this is not my idea. I've taken this idea because I think it's really good, and it's really served me well when I look at what I make and what others make. And it's this idea of what elegance is. When I took a 2D design course in college, and the professor talked about elegance, this is one of the only things that he said that stuck with me. But it was kind of like one of those, you come across these ideas and they just kind of shape your reality. And I think that it just stuck with me. Like I've talked about this before. You run into people, they say something, and they may not even think about it that much, but it keeps on swirling around your brain. You keep on thinking about it, and it ends up being a very good thought. So what he said is that elegance is essentially an equilibrium between complexity and simplicity. So think about it this way. So you create something. I'm designing something. Let's go back to 2D design. So I'm trying to design an ad to sell something. And I make this ad, and when I look at the ad, it's very cluttered. So I start to take stuff away. And then there's a point where I keep on taking stuff away from this ad, and I'm like, that's perfect. That is excellent. It's not really, really complex. It's not cluttered. It's a very elegant piece of art, because 2D design is a type of art. And that's what elegance is. You don't have too much stuff. So, and it doesn't even have to, like, it doesn't mean that you have like 2 lines. It doesn't mean that you're going for a very Spartan look. It means that you found the equilibrium. You found this perfect part. And I think I've talked about this before, that when I look at art, when I try to make something, I come up with all these different ideas, and I try to pick the best idea possible, because I'm trying to pick the idea that's simple, but it has enough information that it comes across. So I'm trying to convey a specific emotion when I write something. I'm trying to create a picture in someone's mind, but I'm trying to also, you probably heard that pop really badly, and you probably heard it again. I'm trying to convey an emotion. I'm trying to paint a picture in someone's mind. I'm trying to get specific ideas and feelings and a storyline across to someone. And I do this, and when I look at all this information, I could use all these different ideas. I could put all these different ideas, and I think younger people tend to shove all these different ideas, and they think that all this stuff has to be really complex. At least for me, that's what it was. And they keep on shoving all these different ideas in it. But in reality, you have to start taking things away little by little until you're like, there you go. That's what I needed. Think of it like, I don't know if this is true. I think it was, who made David? Gosh. Michelangelo, I think, made the statue of David, and I may be completely wrong about that. I'm pretty sure it was Michelangelo, like the famous statue of David. And I think it's just, I think it's more of a folktale than anything, but there's essentially reports saying that when he was younger, I think, I'll have to look this up, but whoever made the statue of David, he would look at a statue, because his dad didn't want him to be a sculpture. He wanted him to go into something else. So when he was younger, he'd just stare at the statue of David, and eventually he was able to, for some reason, to sculpt. He'd stare at a block of granite, not a statue of David, or a block of marble. I'm almost certain David is made out of a block of marble. David is a cool statue, by the way. He's naked, but it's a big statue. Like, if you think about it, it's just like, man, and it's really, really realistic. It's unbelievable that people can do that. And they can do it with, stone. If you've ever seen, one of the coolest statues is, I love Moses. He has the big beard. Like, there's a Moses statue. I think I don't know if it's Michelangelo who it is. It's escaping me right now. It's the same person who made David, but it's like Moses, and he has this big, huge beard. I think he has horns in that one. But he stared at the statue of David, and he essentially, when he was able to start, he stared at a block of marble. He stared at a block of marble, and essentially when he started carving it, he knew exactly what he was going to do. Because he could see the curves, he visualized it in his mind. But it's more of a metaphor in this sense. So when he created David, he could have made it a lot of different ways, but he had to take off. He had to create it the way it was. He had to take off the marble. He had to chip away at the marble in a specific way, so that it would come out the way it is. So if he took away too much, then there would be a flaw, because there wouldn't be enough material to work with. If he left too much on, there would still be something wrong. It would still be a flaw in the statue of David. The proportions would be off. So that's what I'm trying to get at in terms of elegance, and that's what my professor was trying to get at in terms of elegance. You're trying to take away everything that is unneeded and keep everything that is needed to make something like simple and elegant. Okay, so that's the idea of elegance. So that's why that goes back to this idea of a normal person being able to understand good art. The art is profound, the art is elegant, but it's simple at the same time. Okay, and I think it's a good thing to remember, and I think it's a good thing to practice when you're writing as well. Because if I have I'm probably guilty of this more than anyone else or a lot of people. I put a lot of words together, and I have really long sentences, and maybe all I need is like a 2-word sentence. Maybe that's all I need to make it work. Okay. So when the thing I do most when I write, when I edit, the majority of time I'm writing, I'm taking words away. I'm simplifying things. I'm shortening things up. It doesn't mean that I'm having 3-word sentence, 3-word sentence, 3-word sentence. It means that I'm just trying to get the best words together in the simplest way so people can understand what I'm saying. Okay. So, I'm going back to this. So I'm trying to talk about the purpose of art. I've kind of talked about elegance in a way. Now I'm going to get actually to the purpose of art. So I've talked about this idea of art being something that is a lens in reality. Think of it as a pair of glasses that clears up your vision for you, so you can understand reality better. So we have art in this world right now, and the majority of common people in the world consume art as entertainment. Okay, and the art we actually consume right now, it's either treated as like throwaway entertainment. This is why I think that people who are artists shouldn't take themselves too seriously, because a lot of people are looking at their art and they're treating their art in a way that's like, oh, you're just entertaining me. And in some ways they should, because people who are artists, if you're an artist, if you're making a lot of money, you're at the behest of the people who are buying your stuff, who are supporting you. You shouldn't be full of yourself, because there's a lot of other people who don't get to do what you do with your life. They don't get to be creative in the same way. There's some people who have to work a full-time job and they do stuff on the side as well. But if off of art, I think that you should be humble about it, because if there was you're like, oh, I'm better than these people that aren't doing this. But those people who aren't making art, they're the ones buying your art. Okay, so they don't have to buy your art. They can buy food instead. Or anything else. They can buy somebody else's art who isn't full of themselves. Okay, so more recently, so over Christmas, we were driving to family. My wife and I were driving to my family's house, and now I'm finally getting to my main point. And after 17 minutes of me just talking about random crap. But my wife, she brought this up. She was talking about this idea that people, I'm almost certain it was her. It almost feels like it was a bit of a dream, but I was driving, and I hate driving. So maybe that was the case why it feels like a dream more than reality. But she was talking about this thing that, there's this idea of making the ordinary extraordinary, okay? And I'm going to get to that. So she was talking about how they found out that people who make gratitude journals and they write things they're thankful for it doesn't work really well. What she was talking to me about this idea that people who they instead of creating gratitude journals, they essentially find the things in reality that are they try to find, man, how do you, okay, essentially making the ordinary extraordinary. So they find these things in reality, they look at differently. They're essentially being artists in their own lives. And they find, they instead of just making it mundane, so instead of somebody writing down things they're thankful for, they start to just slow down and they look at the world, and then they're like, they see the world differently. Okay. And she had more to go on off of this, but I don't have that good of a memory. So I'm going off of like a very bare minimum of what she said, because I've got to sneeze. 1 second. Okay. I got to wait a little bit because I'm going to sneeze again probably. I paused. So you're looking at the world differently. This is the whole point of art, essentially. Okay. So you're finding things, you're being surprised by things in the world. Think of it like this way. So if I say, oh, I'm really thankful for sunsets. All right. I can be like, oh, that's great. Or what if I see a really great sunset and I don't expect it? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Like, because sunsets are pretty amazing. I think there's certain people who probably don't like them, but you're in the minority people. But generally, people look up, they're like, wow, look at the sky tonight. And they weren't expecting it. And it gives you that kind of sense of awe. You're like, wow, that's amazing. Like, that's so cool. A lot of people throughout history have been like, wow, that's like beautiful. That's that kind of, they say that it points to like a divine, someone or something that created the world that's divine. So when you look at the world, this is something that I've been learning myself, and I don't even know. I may have talked about this before, and maybe I have talked about this at one of my earlier episodes talking about pain. When you look at the world, you can essentially put yourself in a type of heaven or a type of hell depending on your viewpoint. So and I think everybody has a tendency to go both ways. There's certain people who tend to be more positive or look at the world in a more positive way than other people. But if I look at the world, and for me, like if I'm having a bad day, it's usually because I allow myself to have a bad day. So I'm like thinking about, oh, I don't have this done. I haven't accomplished these things in my life. I want to do this, but I don't have time to do this. I'm tired. I didn't get up early enough. I'm not going to be able to fall asleep tonight. And I'm essentially creating a type of hell for myself. And if you do that enough, you're just constantly miserable, because that's really what hell is, right? That's in the end, like if you were burning. Okay. So I've kind of been thinking about, so people, most Christians take heaven and hell literally. And I'm not saying that I don't, but I'm just, if you think about this, because some people think about aspects of reality or aspects of religion in a metaphorical way. And if you think about hell or heaven in a metaphorical way, it's interesting to think about it that way. It's kind of like a thought experiment. So if I think about hell, if I am burning, so if I've got, if I burn my hand, but I separate myself from the pain. So if I think, oh, I'm going to have a good day despite the fact that my hand is burning, that day can still be a really good beneficial day. If my hand got burned and I'm always constantly complaining about it and I'm always focusing on it, I'm probably not going to have a good day. I'm just like, my hand hurts so much all day. In the same way, you see people who are like very, very ill, but they're really happy, joyful people. But they're really ill. They have a lot of pain in their life. Or you see someone who's really ill and they're miserable. They still have a lot of pain in their life. They're very ill. And the person who is full of joy, the difference between that is the fact that someone is looking at the world in a very negative way, and the fact that someone is looking at the world in a very positive way. They're seeing all these things in life. They're like, wow, this is so good. This is awesome. Like, I can't believe that this is the case. And when you look at, my nose is like dripping right now. It's really annoying. I need a tissue, but I'm going to wait until I'm done with this. When you look at the world, and for me, when I start to think about the life I live, sometimes I'm like, man, I wish this was the case, and I wish I didn't have to pay bills, and I wish my student loans were paid off, and all these different things. But if I really sit back, I'm like, man, I've got a really, really good life. Like, if I look at all the things I have, or if I think about them just offhanded, I'm like, wow, like, I never thought I'd be here in life, or I never imagined it'd be like this exactly, and I never imagined it'd be like this so quickly. And I'm not like, my wife and I aren't like super rich or anything by any means whatsoever, but thinking about that changes my viewpoint on things. Or I can, like I said, think about all these things. I can think about all the bad. So how does this get back to art? So when you create a piece of art, and this is the reason why I'm making this today, is because more recently, when we have a guest bedroom and we were thinking, my wife, actually, I'm not gonna take credit for this, but I am gonna take credit for finding the piece of artwork to put in it. My wife was like, we need a piece of artwork. We need something on the wall in there to kind of complete the room, because despite the fact, so she says that she's not creative, but that's not actually true, because she can look at a room, she can be like, this is the best way to set up the room. And I've never met someone who actually could do it better than her. I've never seen a room, like, it's weird because you go into a room and it's set up in a specific way, and she sees the space and she can imagine the space in a specific way that is really, really good. It's just like, wow, I wouldn't have thought about that. I wouldn't have thought of putting this way. Okay. So I trust her when it comes to setting up that room. So I'm just like, oh yeah, sure, we can get a piece of artwork. And finally, right before Christmas, art is super expensive, and I'm not going to spend several $100s on a piece of art that's real, or even more. It might be even more. And even if you get a prints are really expensive. So what we ended up doing, we got a cheaper picture. It's a real piece of art, because I really like real pieces of art. Gonna get back to that though. We got a picture, we got a frame, and a really nice frame that fits the picture, a picture that goes with the room, and we put it in the room, and it did complete the room. But I would not have thought about this topic or what art does if we didn't get that picture, because I really like real art. I really like real art. I'm not the biggest fan of photos. And the reason why I'm not the biggest fan of photos, I think there is an artistic component to photos. I think that people need to see the world differently, but there is a different quality to a photo than a painting. So a photo can just like capture what the world is. You can alter the photo, but if you're altering the photo, I don't really consider that art in the same way. What a painting does is you need artistic skill to actually create it. I'm not saying you don't need skill to take pictures, but there's a lot less skill involved in taking a picture than painting one. Okay? And a lot less time. And you need to understand the little details in a painting. You need to understand little details in reality to make a painting good. With a photo, you can look at a thing and you don't need to understand every little detail in that picture. I think it's more beneficial if you understand every little detail in that picture, but you don't need to. It's a very quick thing. Photos are a lot faster. You can take 16 photos in probably like a second, maybe 20. I don't know how fast a camera can take photos, like a really good one. But a painting, it takes you hour upon hour to create, generally. Now, people can create it in 15 minutes, but really good paintings take you a really long time. And the painting that we have in our guest bedroom is called Nighthawks. It's a really famous painting. It's not the actual painting, but it would be really awesome if it was the actual painting. It's called Nighthawks. And I was just looking at it because I was writing my show map in the guest bedroom. And I was lying in the bed and I was just typing it up because I've been typing it up more recently. And I've been looking at it. I'm like, that painting, like what's in that painting is not very complex. If you don't know the painting, all it is a diner. It's supposed to be a Philadelphia diner. It's at night and it's people sitting at the diner. And if you could take a cool photograph of that, but there's different colors and there's different details in the painting, and the feeling of I think that I'm fairly convinced about this. The reason that it's so iconic and not just a photo that's taken is because it's a painting. So if you took a photo like that, it would just be mimicking the painting now on. But it's a really simple painting. There's nothing special in it. It catches normal life, but it does it in a way that it's very calm. Okay, it does it in a way that's very calm. It's an artistic style that's fairly realistic. It actually is pretty realistic. It's not like Norman Rockwell, but I was just enjoying it. I'm just like, man, like if I saw this in real life, I'd probably just pass it by. But if it's on the wall and it's set up in a way where it just presents things in a different light, essentially, it's highlighting a specific aspect of reality. Okay, and getting back to this idea of being essentially creating your own hell or your own heaven, if you are always focused on the bad of reality, you're going to create your own hell. Like I said, if you're focused on positive things, or if you see reality in a different light, you're going to enjoy life a lot more. And I think what art does, the purpose of art, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'm probably going to develop this idea more, but I think the purpose of art, and I think I'm talking more about paintings right now than anything, but I think you could apply this to other aspects of art, is to make you stop and to make you be like, huh, that's kind of curious, like the way that Nighthawks is set up. And you just start looking at it and you just start enjoying the painting, because it's a snapshot of reality, but it's a snapshot someone took hours to create. And you just start looking at the different things of it, and you start appreciating, oh, like someone actually probably saw this in real life and painted it. And because of that, you enjoy life more. And this goes back to this idea of seeing reality more clearly. Okay? Because I think that there's a lot of bad things in reality. There's a lot of horrible things in reality, and the majority of the horrible in reality comes from having pain in reality. But there's also a lot of good things in reality. And it is I think every single human is capable of looking at a bad situation and being like, this is a bad situation. Or you look at you go out, it's kind of like going out in the cold in winter. So if you live in a warmer climate, whatever, but if you go out in cold in the winter, it's negative 10 degrees, you're generally going to be like, get me out of here. This is awful. But if you just slow down, if you're like, oh, I'm just going to try to enjoy things out here, I'm going to look at the world in a different way, you notice, there's nobody out here. It's really peaceful. If there's snow on the ground, it's generally quieter. You may start enjoying the cold air a little bit. Like, it's just a different feeling that you usually don't get. And that's what art is trying to do. It's being like, hey, stop. Like, you think this is a bad thing. You think that there's something really awful. You want to avoid this situation, but I'm going to force you to be in this situation and see the good in this situation. So I think that's the way, that is the purpose of art. Because reality, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of bad in reality. I think that art should take on and deal with the bad, but I think that the underlying aspect of reality is like, hey, like there's so much good as well. There's not a reason to hate yourself or hate life or anything like that. So that's what I've got for you today. I'm already past 30 minutes. I'm supposed to be at 30 minutes, so I'm going to quick give you the logical fallacy of the week. But it's just a thing to chew on, and I like I said, I wouldn't have thought about this if I hadn't seen the painting of the Nighthawks. If we hadn't gone through that process, we kept on looking for a piece of art or something to put in that room. We couldn't find one, and finally, right before Christmas, I saw it, and I'm like, hey, what about this? And I'm like, I really like this one. Like, I was going through different pictures, and I'm like, oh, what about these? And I sent pictures to my wife, and she's like, well, I really like this one or Nighthawks. And she's like, do you like any? I'm like, well, I really like Nighthawks. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a cool painting. And I don't know how big it is regularly, but I don't know. It just does something different. And I don't think this is the end. Like, I think it is the purpose or a purpose of art. I don't think I have the complete picture. I think I'm still in the process of thinking about this, but that's what I've got for you right now. So before I go, I'm already past time. The logical fallacy of the week. I've got two for you because one is a subgroup of the other. All right. So the logical fallacy of the week is red herring. All right, and so what a red herring in an argument is, it's one of the most common logical fallacies, so most people are going to know what it is. But what a red herring does, it distracts a person from the argument that's being had. All right, so you're having an argument and somebody shifts towards something else. So if you're trying to distract somebody purposefully, it's a really good thing just to. So for instance, if I'm having an argument with someone I know and I suddenly insult them, that's an ad hominem or ad hominem, however you want to say it. And that's attacking someone. And that'll really switch. Like, if you want to stop an argument in its tracks, just attack someone. That's a good way to do it. That's a type of red herring. It's distracting from what's going on. I'm actually going to be, I'm not going to talk about ad hominem because it's one of the biggest ones. And if you want to check that one out, you should know. But another red herring is an appeal to novelty. And I'm bringing this one up because I think it happens a lot. And I think it's a natural human thing that happens. And what it is something is considered superior because it's new or novel. So it's like, oh, this is out of the ordinary, so this must be superior. Oh, this is a newer thing in society, so this must be superior. And this drives me nuts. And I think people should know that that's a logical fallacy. So if you're basing your ideas off this, if you're basing what you think is the best off what's the newest, that might not be the best thing. So, for instance, if you're like, wow, this this happens in schools a lot. I think it happens with schools because, especially with technology, so schools are like, wow, we could bring in, like, we could buy every kid a computer. And I work in a lot of schools, tons of schools, every single kid has a computer or an iPad, and it's a newer technology, and in a lot of ways it's helpful because it helps things to go faster. But what if, and I'm not saying this is the case, but what if it would be better if every kid was using a pencil and paper and writing everything down? What if it's better for their schooling and better for their brain to do that? And just because something is newer doesn't mean it's the best thing. Just because it offers you the ability to do something doesn't mean it's the best thing. Okay, and I'm getting into a different thing. So appeal to novelty is just because it's new or novel, it's superior, not necessarily because it can do different things. So please don't take me the wrong way when I say, it has different functions. Because if it has different functions, you could actually use that to create a logical argument to say it's better. All right, so that's all I've got for you this week. These past 2 weeks I've just been using up so much time. I go so quickly and I have so much to say. I don't know, maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. I will see you next week. My name is Daniel Poppy. This is How to Write Good.